extended and included in so many higher structures that it's just down there almost as if it were predetermined.
Right.
And it's certainly the case that for the average human, if you're a Plotinus, for example, and you're at, let's say he's, just for sake of argument, his center of gravity was turquoise, then he's going to look at all these earlier structures and think that they were always there.
Yeah.
Because that's what it would look like to him, and for everything that he could possibly know. And so he would simply assume, like Plato and so many other traditions, that these are just fixed levels in a great chain.
Aurobindo did that too, didn't he?
He did to a large degree, and that is, as much as he was developmental, he was really right on the cusp. And there are cases where he seems to really see beyond it, but in so many cases he would say, yes, during involution, it's laid down, and there are actually beings, or also there are angelic beings and all sorts of mythic beings that actually exist and are basically populating these levels of existence, these planes of existence, and that we are indeed sort of moving back through them. And then the one area that he really starts realizing something is going on is the actual overmind and supermind. And he knows that evolution is a dynamically evolutionary unfolding, but he tends to see evolution as a kind of a rewinding the videotape. But at supermind, weird stuff is going on. It's like he knew that there was a whole creative thing going on there. And all I'm saying is that that's just the leading edge of creation for him, that same creative component was going on all the way back down into Rad, and all the way back down to Big Bang, actually. But once the choices are made, when Rad was first being laid down about 20,000 years ago, that was a leading-edge choice. And to be able to go from mere magic, sort of magenta or purple indissociation of self and nature, and actually create an individualized, this is a huge leap. And it's created a really enormous number of kind of heroes making that leap. But now it's like every 2-year-old goes through it.
Right.
And so once the choices are increasingly made, red was increasingly made, by the time we get to 10,000 BCE, by the time we get to 4,000 BCE, a whole new, so many people have moved into amber, or the blue mean, that it's the groove of amber is starting to become deeper and deeper. And all these grooves are, I say, give you an analogy, it's sort of like dragging a stick across the ground. It's only, at first it's just a little bitty line in the ground. But if somebody else comes along with a stick and drags it through that same similar line, same direction, then it gets a little bit deeper, and then a little bit deeper, and a little bit deeper. And everybody goes, a little bit different as they go through it, but it's still in that same general line. But pretty soon, it's like the formation of going from a small stream, to a small river to an Amazon. And red is like, it's this huge Grand Canyon. It's cut so deep. Amber's cut, if red is cut a mile down, I don't know what it is exactly. Amber is like 3/4 of a mile. Orange now is like about a half mile. Orange has been cut for about 300, 400 years. Green is only about 20 or 30 yards down deep. Green is only, as a large choice of a large number of people, has only been around for about 40 years. In 1959, about 2% of the population was green. Today, about 22% is. But now, the action is at turquoise, which is only about a foot down.
Right.
And indigo, which is just a little line across the ground.
It seems like the collective aspect of this is what's really important. Like that, like we're co-creating, these structures. That's why we need each other to sort of, like it's almost like playing with atomic fuel. And like if you're off by yourself,
you got to be careful.
But you got to be really careful.
I think that's a good point, and we sort of make it. We say it's kind of like a new categorical imperative. It's like act as if the set of choices that you make now is to constitute a stage of development for all human beings. And you get very straight if you do it. And that of course, is giving ourselves a great pat on the back and assuming that we're a turquoise and a indigo. And that's okay. Somebody is. Somebody is that indigo makes dragging these sticks across the ground. And already 2 to 3%, well, already about 2% of the population is a turquoise. So there are a fair number of people doing this. And whoever is doing that, and I think anybody on this call, frankly, would be part of that, or I don't think they'd be interested in this stuff. Just get straight. And it doesn't mean you have to be puritanical. It means almost the opposite. It means party well. And it doesn't mean don't party. It means do it well. And with a great deal of aesthetics and goodness and truth and beauty, and just have a great deal of fun. But and it also means, you know, in your cognition and your ideas and your thoughts, we are, you know, dragging a stick across the ground. Now, 1,000 years from now, this, let's say, turquoise again, probably every high school kid will be going through it. And center of gravity will be somewhere around indigo to violet. And that'll be the stick across the ground. And then, frankly, 100,000 years from now, assuming that spirit doesn't just, you know, wake up and dissolve the game again. But assuming, let's just assume for sake of argument it goes on, then what we call overmind, well, we'll have found 10 more levels than that. It just keeps going at the upper reach. And it's creative at that upper reach, and so that can account for all of these levels of consciousness appearing as if they're structures that were preformed. But they're not. They're habits. They're cosmic habits that have been laid down. And, of course, at the leading edge, there's a great deal of choice and freedom. But once it's laid down, less so. And once it's laid down for, you know, a century or so, almost no choice at all. I mean, you're going through red, you're going through amber, you're going through orange. Deal with it. So what we hope, of course, is that you lay down a structure in as healthy a way as possible. And history is not a happy story on this one. Orange started out very healthy, extraordinarily healthy. And with the differentiation of the value spheres, differentiation of the quadrants, differentiation of the big three, on a cultural scale, differentiating art, morals, and science, so that each could be honored. And within a century, science had colonized the art and morals components. The right-hand quadrants had, in a sense, invaded and taken over the left-hand quadrants. Long story on that one. That's the mean orange meme. And green, likewise, emerged very healthy. In the 60s, it was the basis of the civil rights movement and early positive forms of feminism and some of the great initial forms of environmentalism and ecology and so on and on and on. And within about 30 years, in many ways, we had the mean green meme. We had some of the dysfunctional, unhealthy forms of green that really tend to dominate, certainly academia. So what we want is to really, it's not too late to turn green around a little bit. It's harder to turn orange around. The four-quadrant matrix of orange it's just pretty scientific materialism, and that's just a crying shame. It doesn't have to be in an individual sense, doesn't have to be in a particular group, university, or that. It's just generically, orange tends to become a little bit preloaded now in its reductionistic morphogenetic form. We can turn green around. I still hope against hope, that green can be laid down in a more healthy form for future generations. And we hope, of course, as turquoise and indigo get laid down, to do so in as healthy a form as possible.